Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I'm Sankey84 and welcome to D&D Adventure A Wizard's Choice. So what I've got from this is it's a choose your own adventure type of game where basically you're given a choice, you deal with the consequences of it and see how it affects the story. Now this is text based, so yeah, I'm not quite sure what we've got going into it, and as I say, I have just literally downloaded this about 2 minutes ago, loaded it up, and already there's a few things that have caught my eye. Now the first thing, while I've not actually tested this up to now and I don't know much about it, is because of that bit on the left there where it says your progress is constantly saved automatically. So yes, I don't want to go in and test it and not be able to go back and redo anything later on. So yep, I guess we're going into this blind together. However, one of the things I have looked at in the options menu, yes, not very much options, but that's fine. But this is the best part of any game. I love the fact you can change your cursor. I know it's something small, but it's just really fun. And I think we're going to keep it on the original one, because I do actually prefer that one, although I do like that one. No, let's go with the this one. We'll have this as our cursor. That's fine. So let's do that. And you know what? Let's get in and find out together what this is all about. Okay. Right, Wizard's Choice, part 1 of 6. You play the part of a wizard in medieval fantasy world. This is the first part of the series. Voice and dark themes. Right, okay. So, alright, maybe I could have carried on because it's, best score. Right, okay, well, let's get in and start, shall we? Okay, so, you start off as a wizard in this massive adventure. Scroll, read, make choices, that's it. Your progress is automatically bookmarked. Feel free to use 2 option panels to adapt the game to your needs. Okay, fine. Right. Okay. Yes, okay, yeah, you've said this multiple times now. Come on. Let's get into it. Right. You are a young wizard seeking treasure and glory. I kind of look like a knight, but okay, I guess a wizard would need a sword at some point, but okay. You're walking along a path in the forest, one day's journey from Ring City, your beloved home. Night is falling and you're thinking about how it might be a good idea to find a campsite. After all, you're in goblin territory and it's dangerous to travel in the dark. Suddenly you smell something awful. Reginald, are you responsible for this outrageous smell? You ask the warrior striding ahead of you. Okay, maybe that's Reginald now. Pray no, I am always downwind from my companions when I squeeze the bellows. Okay. You realise that you've never encountered this stage before, and it's close, and perhaps it's your imagination, but is that muffled breathing you just heard? What do you do? Okay, I'm going to say we stop and listen, because it might not be goblins, it could be somebody else. So just stop and listen for a minute. Okay, no need to panic yet, you think. You grab Ren by the shoulder and gesture him to be quiet. The two of you stand motionless for a few long seconds before you hear a low wheezing sort of breathing. Reginald must have heard it too, because he raised his sword defensively. A series of snorts is followed by several goblins with green tinted skin charging out of hiding towards you. With an arcane word and a flourish of one hand, you send a bolt of fire into the leader of the charge, who drops to the ground. Reginald hacks down another with his sword. The remaining 3 run away, whooping and yipping. Soon their cries are joined by others from the dark forest all around you. Many calls from far too many goblins to fight toe to toe. It's a haunting party trick wild game, I wager. Human is a delicacy much better than mutton. You regard the 2 dead goblins on the ground. Dead goblins are worth 10 gold pieces per head in the city. Luckily, you don't need to carry their heads around. The city will accept their left ears. What do you do? Oh, wait a minute. The closing in. No, let's get the ears quickly. Right. Get the ears, you exclaim as you pull out the razor-sharp dagger from your belt. For a second, your sometimes slow-witted warrior sidekick doesn't understand, but as you start sewing away the first ear, he gets the idea and fishes out his own dagger. Soon you have a bloody goblin ear stuffed in your pocket, and Reginald has one of his own. Nasty, very. However, 10 gold pieces are nearly 6 months of wages to a common labourer, so you're willing to take the hit. What now? Reginald asks. Certainly there are excellent places to hide in the forest if you can just make it until morning. True, the goblins may have dogs and their own sense of smell is keen, you say. We might climb a tree, then that would at least be defensible. You wish to be treed like a fox with goblins barking underneath. If you wish a position that is both defensible and allows some freedom of movement, we should hasten to Castle Inverness. It's near and we could fortify ourselves behind the walls. You frown. It is a fortress, but inhabited by what? God knows what manner of creature may have taken up residence. So, what are we going to do? Hide in the forest, garrison the ruins, or climb a tree? Screw it, let's run to the ruins. Go! Okay, let's take refuge behind the stone walls of Castle Inverness, you say. Goblin hunting calls echo from all around in the forest as the 2 of you dash up the path 100 meters or so, where you find a fork in the road. The path to the right appears to be seldom used. It is nearly overgrown. The path to the left is clear, and you think you see firelight down the way. Could this fire belong to the goblins, or if you're lucky, is it a campfire of another friendly adventuring party? What do you do? Oh, screw it. Let's investigate the fire. Ow. So it turns out the fire does belong to goblins. What do you expect? You're in goblin country after all. You've come to a clearing with 2 goblins staring hungrily at a rack of mutton sizzling over fire. Apparently these guys are more keen on guarding their next meal than joining the rest of the hunting party. Before you can decide whether to turn back or kill them, one of them spots you and screams out. Reginald shoots this one with his bow while the other runs off. What a cowardly lot. You run back to the fork in the road, head towards the castle. On the way, you hear a whistle in your ear. Then another, then feel a sting just above your hip. They do have bows. The wound isn't bad. It's a small arrow shot by a weakling, no doubt. You pull it out without losing your stride. Okay, so yeah, that kind of backfired. Never mind, never mind. Okay. After a minute of stumbling down what is best described as a game trail, you see the shadowy husk of the ruins in the moonlight ahead. Unfortunately, the battle cries of your pursuers are closer than ever, and when you look back over your shoulder, you see glowing eyes. The 2 of you turn on a burst of speed, and soon the outer wall of the castle looms before you. It's about 10 feet high and crumbling. You realise with horror that there are no holes in this side that are large enough to fit through. Meanwhile, Reginald, a faster runner than yourself, has disappeared around the north corner of the wall. A short spear whistles past your head. You look back and see at least 4 of the little beasts. What do we do? Follow him, jump, or fight. I mean, there's only what did it say? 4 of them. Yeah, let's blast them. We've got what? 12 mana. Let's use it. Okay. Hey, at least morale's gone up. That's good. Die, filthy vermin! You shout as you turn to face the pursuers. They are not far behind, and you only have to wait a few seconds before they are in range. You shout the spell, trigger word, and gout of flame erupts from your outstretched hand, engulfing 4 goblins. They scream shrilly for a moment and then fall silent as their flaming bodies crumple to the ground. No more goblins are visible, so you run to catch up with Renrod. As you run the north side, you see him above a section of the partially crumbled wall. He helps you scramble over the top and onto the rotten gangplank. He grins at you and nods in the direction you came from. God, you have struck terror into that advanced party. However, they'll call for reinforcements. We have the wall. The question remains, can we hold it? We could go in. You point to the castle keep beyond the courtyard. The castle is 3 stories tall, or at least it had been before most of the top floor collapsed. The second story is barely any better. The fortress is as lifeless and still as a painting. Nevertheless, you wonder if anyone is looking back at you from the dark arrow slits of the first floor. Oh. The thing is, if there's something in there and we prepare a defensive wall, then yeah, we are... Ooh. If we defend the walls and there's something inside, it can attack us from behind. But if we go in and there's nothing there, then they can get in. The thing is, we've killed the party, so they're going to know where we've got in. And screw it, we're going in. Enter the castle. 2 are not enough to defend all 4 walls. Away to the keep, you shout. You run across the courtyard and open the large wooden double doors which shriek on rusty hinges. I didn't think about that, yeah. There's going to be at least 4 walls and there's only 2 of you, so yeah, okay, fine. Unlocked, this may be a trap, my friend. We best be on guard. Once inside, Reginald slams the bars the door. The entrance chamber is a large with high vaulted ceiling. The stone walls are cracked and flaking. The ground is strewn with loose rubble. The air is stale. Aside from the double doors behind you, there are closed wooden doors on the north, east and west walls. Near the north door, there is a stairway going up, but it's blocked by rubble. It's not long before the front door begins to rattle violently. Through a nearby arrow slit, you can see glowing eyes and the glint of axes chopping away at the door. You're not sure how long the barred portal will hold them. Reginald wants to hide deep in the castle. On the other hand, this place smells of death. It might be prudent to take a few seconds to investigate. Yeah, I think we need to investigate what's going on. And who knows, there might be some treasure. Okay. You motion to Reginald to check the east door. You inspect the ground and see there's been traffic through here. Some of the tracks on the dusty floor appear to be from human-sized shoes or boots, while others appear to be from bare feet, far too large to be from men. None of the tracks appear to belong to goblins. Listen, you can't hear anything over the goblins thumping and screaming outside. You direct the light of your lantern to the northern door and are about to turn towards the eastern door when someone catches your attention. Was that an eye? You think you caught a glimpse of a glistening eyeball through a rotten hole in the northern door. Casually, as though just taking another look around, you sweep the lantern over the door again, pausing for a second on that spot. Yes, that was an eye. You're being watched, and although your glimpse of it was fleeting, you could tell the eye did not belong to a human. The white of the orb is pink with blood, while the retina is pitch black and large. You would like to get a better look at the creature. There is a minor spell you normally use to magically open doors from distance. You find it tedious opening doors yourself. As long as the door is unlocked, you could use this lazy wizard spell to open the eye door without being too close. On the other hand, that may frighten or anger whoever the eye may belong to. Perhaps you should just talk to it. Maybe you can join forces against the goblins. Alternatively, you might be able to hurl a bolt of fire through the eye hole. Not an easy shot, but you have the element of surprise. Finally, there's a running option, a choice that's been keeping wizards alive for thousands of years. Well, it seems to be hiding, so I'm not going to shoot it. Open it, yeah, it does, as I say, it's hiding, so it's cowering, so unlocking it might make it panic. So, you know what, let's talk. Let's see what it was got to say for itself. You can always run. Oh! You muster your courage, face the door, and raise your voice to be heard over the pounding of the goblins. We mean you no harm, we wish only to... Crack. The door opens. The light of your lantern streams into the doorway to reveal a huge muscled monster stooping over. He holds a massive spike club in one hand and a melon-sized rock in the other. He steps into the room. Neville's tongue, it's an orc. Greetings, you say, mustering your most cheerful smile. The younger goblins are disrespecting your property. Let us join forces against them. Just then, the front doors of the castle burst open like a tidal wave crashing on the beach. A heap of goblins falls into the room, creatures on top of another. A chorus of glee erupts from their fanged mouths. The orc hurls his stone straight at you. You duck and hear a squishy thud behind you. Well, your diplomacy may not have exactly worked, but now there might be an opportunity. Time to let the orc and the goblins become acquaintances without you. Okay, so it worked. Good. Reginald and you nearly collide in your haste through the eastern portal. Once through, you slam the door closed. From the entrance chamber you just left come goblin yelps of triumph, which then turn into screams of terror that are immediately drowned out by an earth-shaking snarl. Next is the sharp slapping of flesh against flesh and the wet sound of bodies ripping apart. You run from one room to the next. The orc is not much of a housekeeper. The castle is full of giant cobwebs and broken furniture. Finally, you enter a larger room, a dining room, as evidenced by a long wooden table and 2 fireplaces. You motion to Reginald to stop, and you both listen. Faintly, you can hear the far-off sounds of battle from behind you. Can't leave that way, you think. Just then you hear something else. Laboured breathing. And is that crying? Oh, I'm going to regret this, but let's investigate. Oh, for glory and the loot, you think to yourself and take the lead. Okay. Oh, okay. You quickly realise that sounds coming from this very room. You creep over to the other end of the dining hall and see a young woman sitting on the ground, chained to a fireplace, rocking back and forth and sobbing. Her cries break off and she looks up at you with an expression of fear that quickly turns to surprise. Who are you? She asks. You tell her your names and that you are here to smite evil while making your fortune. This brings a smile to her face, a pretty smile. You suspect, although it's hard to tell under all the dirt smudged on her face, she gives her name as Siba and says there is a key to her change on the table. Sure enough, beside cracked and dusty china is a small brass key. As you set about unlocking, she tells you that she's a merchant's daughter who was travelling with her father's trade caravan when it was attacked by a mighty orc with a small band of priests of an evil god wearing dark clothes. Those of her party not killed in the initial attack were taken prisoner and chained up in this room. One by one they were taken away by the priest, never to return. They took my father, she sniffs. No doubt he is slain, but I must try to find him. Will you help me? You ask her if she has any idea where her father always might be, but she knows little of the rest of the castle. Reginald takes you inside. Ought we take her to safety and then look for her father on her own? She'll be in danger travelling with us. You agree that having some half-starved, unarmed merchant's daughter tripping along behind you will only get her killed, but where is safety? Last time you checked, the courtyard was crawling with goblins, and according to her, the castle residents are not very good hosts. Oh. Well, we're not going to chain her up. No. And sending her on her way is a bad idea. I mean, we could hide her. But if the mages and escort, oh god, they've all got bad points to them. You know what? The only one really that's gonna be the same. No, because then if she's outside, we're in goblin territory. So hide her. Find a hiding spot for her, and then we'll move on. Okay. There are a ton of hiding places in this room. You find a nice pile of rubble for her to hide behind a few rooms away. You tell her to keep quiet and that you'll come back for her. Stay still and quiet here. We will return. Well, if we do not return by morning, escape the best you can, you instruct her. Clever, Reginald says as you leave her. If the priests find her missing, they would not expect her to remain in the castle. With luck, they will leave the castle altogether to find her, and we can explore unhindered. Ah, see? I'm clever. There we go. Right. The castle is quiet and dark. You walk into a wide hallway that branches in two directions. One direction is covered in a thick layer of dust, while the other is covered in footprints. You decide that it would be wise to get a lay of the land before looking for any trouble. Despite the faint smell of rotted flesh from the dusty hall, you decide that it would be wise to go this way first. Less monsters, more treasure, or at least you hope. You have kept your lantern hooded, only allowing slivers of light out. After all, you want to remain stealthy. The way is dim, however, and you find yourself tripping over rubble and odd pieces of furniture. Ahead, there is a stench of rot, making you wonder if there might be something terrible hidden in the shadows. Too bad you can't see in the dark. What do you do? Well, let's have a look. You never know. It might like the dark and not like the light, so it might run away. Ooh. Since you appear to be entering a vacant part of the castle, you expect your light would not attract any attention, and so you unhood your lantern to see your way clearly. As you move along, the cobwebs thicken and thicken. Spider! He yells. He points his sword up at the ceiling. There's an enormous hairy spider suspended by a massive yarn-thick web. The webs are dotted with small, silky cocoons you suspect might encase rats or other small prey. With trembling fingers, Redwood sheaths his sword and only slings his bow. He takes a deep breath and fits an arrow, draws back the string and fires. The spider flails its long legs for a moment and then drops out of the web onto the floor with a thud. The two of you move on, taking extra care to watch the ceiling. See, it was a good job we had it, otherwise you wouldn't have seen the spider. Right, eventually the two of you make your way to a spiral staircase going up. The upper regions of foul places like this are safer than the lower levels, says Reginald. Why in Neville's tongue would that be, you say? Reginald shrugs. Do not ask me what is in the minds of fiends and evil-hearted beasts. Perhaps they prefer the darkness and stagnant air below ground. You look up the stairway and sigh, well, perhaps you can get a view of the courtyard and the goblins from up there. Reginald leads the way up the stairs, which leads to a small tower. Moonlight filters in through two windows. This room is finely furnished and otherwise much more nicely kept than the rest of the castle you visited so far. There is a small bed, still made, on one end, an ornament table and a bookshelf. On the table is an open fairy tale book and a gold embossed hand mirror. Seeing loot, you forget about the window and potential view of the courtyard. You pick up the mirror and inspect it. Strange, says Reginald. There's no dust up here, and do you feel a draft? We're in a ruin, you say. Of course there's a draft. The glass in the windows are still intact, mutters Reginald. Gazing at your reflection in the mirror, you decide you look pretty good, all things considered. You brush cobwebs from your wavy brown hair, you smile, you're happy to see your teeth are looking particularly good. Of course you deserve nice teeth, since unlike most people you know you take care of them. Every morning you wipe your teeth with cloth dripped into a cleaning concoction consisting of vinegar, salt, a little sand, and a small measure of your own urine. Ooh, lovely. You're about to pull yourself away from the mirror and put it in your backpack when you glimpse a translucent skull with thin wispy hair just behind you in the reflection. You spin around and see not a skull but a young girl floating a few feet in the air, her pale face fixed on you. Reginald sees her too, as evidence of running down the stairway. How dare you touch what is mine? The ghostly... Oh, wow. Okay, yep, she's creepy. The ghostly girl shouts. You back up and reflect to put the mirror back on the table. You've heard tales of powerful ghosts that can suck the life right out of you and wonder if this girl is one of those. What do you do? Run for the stairs, protect from evil. No, let's apologise. We didn't know she was here. We were just searching. I apologise, my lady. You say, It is only that this is such a fine mirror and I wish to admire it. She glares at you for a moment and then the hard expression on her translucent face softens. I am the Duchess Inverness. My father, the Duke, gave me that as a gift. You've heard stories of Duke Inverness and the mysterious circumstances around the demise of his house. Despite your fate, you feel a pang of sadness for his daughter, who now shimmers before you, trapped in this world. And these books, why, they look like excellent stories in here, you stammer. Read that one to me, the girl commands. Of course, my lady. You answer, luckily for you, as a wizard you know how to read. You pick up the book of fairy tales from the desk and begin on the first page. She stops you and demands that you read her the story about the unicorn. With trembling hands, you page through the book. Eventually, you find the story and begin reading. The ghost floats up behind you as though to peer down at the pictures. You feel a slight chill on your shoulder. Sometime later, you look up from the book and see Reginald peeking around the corner of the stairway at you. You shake your head slightly at him and then return your attention to the book. In the story, the unicorn taps her hoofs against a wall in a castle and a secret passage opens. As you read this, the little girl smiles and says, there's a secret passage in this castle as well. It's in a foul place, a place where people are taken never to return. Where is the secret passage you speak of? You ask. In my father's library. There's a statue. Push the arm of the statue down, she explains. You're intrigued by this and wish to ask her more, but she points to the book impatiently and you get back to it. Upon finishing the story, the girl demands you read another. You wonder how long she might keep this up. Time means nothing to her after all. You'd like to get back to Reginald, and what about Sibba's father? Rescuing a merchant might be a fine reward, and there's Sibia herself, of course. You would like to find her before something else does. What do you do? Alright, one more story. Let's just read one more and then we'll have to leave. Oh, whoops. As you do as the ghost says and read another story. You do not pay attention to the fairy tale as you're increasingly distracted by the chill over your shoulder. When you finish, the ghost demands another story to be read. Am I so craven that I'll continue to read to this dead girl while the living need me? I'll read no more unicorn stories tonight. You decide. What do you do? Attempt to excuse yourself. I'm not going to run. Oh, very nice. Beautiful and gracious. May I ask your full name? You ask. Gabriella. Duchess Gabriella of Inverness. My lady, you bow. I beg your pardon, but there is a young woman in the castle below who requires my assistance. There are evil men. I suspect they threaten her life. A maiden in distress? Why do you dally here then? Be gone. You need no further encouragement. You step lightly towards the door. Wait! Her voice chills you, but you're unwilling to turn back. Take this, she says, and the gold-trimmed mirror floats off the table over you. I cannot see myself in it anymore, she says softly. Generously befitting a duchess, I thank you most honourably. You bow low and then leave. You find Reginald around the corner of the stairs, his sword at the ready. He begins to ask you questions, but you put your hand. Another time you say. See, it worked out for the best. Okay. The two of you continue through the castle. Occasionally you hear distant things. A shout, a crash, even voices. Soon you come to a door with light streaming out through its cracks. You open the door ever so slightly and peek in. You see a cloaked man frantically pacing back and forth, torch in his hand. His cloak is open, revealing a muscled frame inked with tattoos. You think you make out at least one of the tattoos to be the symbol of Nerol, goddess of the undead. This reminds you of the tattooed body of a man hung in the city square only a month ago. He is believed to be an evil priest of Nerol, and was accused of terrible crimes, including raising zombies. Focusing on the rest of the room, your fear is quickly confirmed. There's a large stone symbol of Nerol built into the wall. The stonework appears to be of the new construction. In addition, there is a luxurious curtain adjoining the wall, as well as a number of simple beds. Priests of Nerol are not fools and are able to harvest powers from their deity to cast dangerous spells. However, you have the element of surprise, and there's only one of them. Ooh, okay. So I can attack with spell, but as a magic user, he's probably... yeah. He's probably going to be able to defend against them. Attack without spells, usually magic users are weak to physical attacks, but then again, the fact that it says that he's buff, yeah, I mean, I could spy on him. Again, you've got the charm spell, but that is, again, same issue with the attack. It might be able to resist. Spy would get a better idea, but then again, it could mean more join up. Screw it, let's try the charm spell on him. Oh, okay. You step up to the doorway, chant your spell, and point at the priest. His eyes wide in surprise and narrow. With a word of some fiendish language, a dark bolt of energy cracks out of his outstretched finger and slices into you. Now you remember that all spell-casting priests, even evil ones such as this, must possess a strong will to draw power from their god. Yes, I knew it! Such a man is no pushover for your mind enchantment. Rendrell charges in. The priest ducks back as Rendrell swings his sword, but not fast enough. The blade slashes his shoulder. He tries to run, chanting something you recognise as the beginning of a spell. Reginald finishing with one Greek cleave. Yeah. So it should have really gone in. Yeah. Never mind. Magic's gone down. Life's gone down. Oh, come on. There's got to be a way to heal up. Now that you're in the room, you can see that you're in the living quarters. There are simple beds along the wall and a chest in the corner. Treasure as you think as you run it over and try to lift the lid. Locked. That priest did not die quietly, so perhaps you should have Reginald smash the lid with his sword and then get out of it. On the other hand, there ought to be a key around here. Maybe you should take a few seconds to check. Yeah, it's probably enhanced and trapped. Okay. Gold. Okay. You stand guard while I search, you say to Reginald. You kick the body of the priest over. The corpse is a bloody mess, but you don't have time to be dainty about it. The man is nude other than the cloak and a golden amulet around his neck. The amulet is an unholy symbol of Nerul, the goddess of the undead. You would never keep such an evil thing, but it's coated in gold, so you could have it melted down. You rummage through his sticky cloak. Sure enough, you find a key. You trot over to Jess, key in hand. The key has the same hue of metal as the lock, and your Optimist kit will fit. You're fumbling with the key when you hear something off in the distance and a chill goes down your spine. And more coming. Did they hear the priest cry out? Normally you're cautious, Jess, having heard that they are sometimes trapped. However, searching the chest for traps would take time, and you're not particularly skilled in trap detection. Screw it, use the key. Nice. Okay. What kind of booby trap is going to spring on someone with the proper key? You think to yourself. You carefully insert the key into the lock. It's a fit. You close your eyes as you turn the key. The top of the chest put open, and as though on a spring, nothing happens. You exhale in relief. Inside is a bag full of gold pieces, some platinum engraved china, and a small black bound writing book. You gather up your loot and hurry out the room. The two of you have only taken a few steps into the dark hallway when you see flickering lights up ahead. You could run right to the room and hide, prepare a firebolt to cast down the hall, or cast an illusion to try and distract. I'm running low on magic, so let's hide. Right. Hide, you whisper to Reginald as you run back into the room and dive behind the curtain. Meanwhile, Reginald presses himself against the wall behind the open door. It seems like you've been in your hiding place for only a few seconds when you hear hurried footsteps in the room. Vladek, he is slain, you hear a tweedy voice say. Butchered, and his chest is pillaged, you hear another voice say. This one close by. You imagine whoever is glaring down at the empty treasure chest, you know there are at least 2 of them out there. What do you do? Well, we know... Oh, there's 2 of them. I mean, I could kill one quickly with a dagger, but that then leaves the other one available to attack. Spells are not going to be very good because, yeah, high wisdom. Okay, let's just take a peek and see. Right, you stay still for a few seconds and then you cannot help yourself. You decide to sneak a peek. You crane your head around the corner of the curtain. One cloaked figure stands near the treasure chest. His back to you and the other stares down at the body. You see Reginald's sword coming out from behind the door. It appears your buddy is going to start the fight with or without you. You must act. Right, let's go with a dagger. Quickly stab him while they are not ready and let him get one. Damn it! More! I knew it was going to... Never mind. You leap up from behind the curtain with your dagger drawn. The nearest priest gasps in surprise. You hear slay from the other priest and you dodge, but not fast enough. Painful cold radiates from where you are struck by his dark magic. You jump up onto the nearby bed and launch yourself at the nearest priest, who shrieks as you stab him over and over. Meanwhile, Reginald has made quick work of the other one with his long sword. You take the time to search the bodies and found golden unholy symbols, medallions on each of them, as well as one fine silver dagger. Not bad for 20 seconds of work. I tire of looting corpses. Let us be off to find the merchants and buy them a glorious reward, you exclaim. Off you go deep into the castle. Soon you'll find yourself in a library. However, all the books are gone from the tall wooden shelves, either stolen or destroyed. As a wizard, this disappoints you. All castle libraries have secret doors, you announce. After searching for a little while, you notice a small statue of a winged boy reading a book worked into the stone wall. You press on the statue's arm and it shifts down. There's a grinding sound and you see the bookshelf nearby crack open from the wall. You wedge your fingers into the gap and pray open the door. Immediately before you are stairs descending into the darkness. Dear reader, normally I would give you a choice of whether or not to go down the stairs, but really, who finds a secret door and chooses not to investigate? Okay, fine. And so, with lantern in hand, you descend a few steps and then listen. It's definitely quiet down here and chilly. You urge Reginald to take the lead. After all, he's wearing the armour. There's a small metal lever on the inside of the passage that you suppose is what used to open the door from the inside. Nevertheless, you decide to leave the door open. The last thing you need is to get trapped in this evil smelling place. It's some time before you finally reach a small empty chamber. On the far wall is a large iron door. Scrawled over the door in rusty red dye, or more likely dry blood, is a set of elaborate symbols. Gods, what is that? Says Reginald, playing the lantern light over the symbols. It's writing in the infernal tongue, you say, a language of devils, demons, and other beasts that inhabited the nightmare universes. At times, I do not envy your knowledge, says Reginald with a faint shudder. The study of magic leads to many dark places, you say. The trick is to not wander too far into the void. What does it say? Asked Reginald in a tone that's not all enthusiastic or curious. You study the symbols. They are crudely drawn, and though in haste, perhaps scrawled by bloody fingers, I cannot be sure. I believe it's a ward or some sort of protection spell. A protected spell using such foul language, Reginald sniffs. I would accept a curse or fiendish summoning. It's a protection against such a summoning, a barrier, you say. Evil knows best, and spells cater of black magic understands the need to protect himself from the terrors they bring into this world. Reginald grimaces and points the tip of his sword to the warded door. Only a fool will go down there, although I am more a man of curiosity than wisdom. You slap his shoulder, making a dull sound against his breastplate, as you have proven time and time again. What shall we do? Well, as it says, who discovers a secret area without searching? Let's go. Maybe this treasure beyond the room, you joke. fortune and glory, my friend. The large iron doors shudders and screeches as Reginald slowly pries it open. Once open, your friend's face drops and you soon realise why. A powerful stench wafts up from below. He takes a deep breath and plunges down the stairway. The two of you descend for some time before you enter a large room, eerily illuminated by green flaming torches fastened to each of the walls. Near the far wall is a dais leading up to an altar with skulls inlaid into frame, some human, other animal, or perhaps monsters. The lower altar is bloodstained and covered with candles in golden candle holders arranged around a book. The book is bound in what might very well be mummified human skin, with hand and finger bones embedded into the cover as though the book were in the grasp of the dead. The title is in Infernal, but you don't recognise the words. Beyond the book is a raised part of the altar, white stone, seemingly scoured clean of bloodstains. The surface has more candles, a golden cup, and a large golden bone filled with some dark liquid, maybe blood. Just before the altar is a narrow but deep pit. Shining the lantern in, you make out something gleaming white, a skeletal arm and a hand. Reginald adds his light to yours, and you can now see heaps of bodies at various stages of decay. The heap is crawling with rats and other vile scavengers. Sacrifices, the stalk of the stench, you mutter. I would bet my last copper that Sibia's father and the rest of the caravan are among them. Reginald makes a face of disgust. I say we swiftly pilfer what we can from this unholy place and leave. As he says this, the bowl on the upper altar begins to tremble as the candlelight around it ripples. Something's coming, you whisper. It's already here. Smoke built up from the bowl and begins taking the form of a horned fiend. His glowing, pitless eyes rove about the chamber, taking in everything. Demon! You shout. Despite the terrified look on his face, Reginald's already unslung his backpack, as though preparing to scoop vials from the altar. He might have the right idea. After all, you came here for loot, and it might take a moment for the shadow beast to fully take form. That strange book might be valuable. Finally, maybe you can disrupt the fiend's arrival by knocking over the bowl. But do you dare? After all, this monster hasn't acknowledged you yet, and messing about with his bowl is likely a dangerous way to introduce yourself. What do you do? Ooh. Grab the book and run, or try to disrupt it. Thing is, you say demon, but is it a demon? I mean, of course it's a demon. Look where you are. Nah, I say grab the book and run. Just get the book and... Damn it. Loot and run, you whisper as you open your backpack and toss the book into your bag. Reginald gets to work, blowing out candles, and throws the golden candlestick into his backpack. You follow his example. You have nearly cleared off the lower table, also when you hear, "Your souls are mine." The voice is a hiss and its words are in Infernal. "Now we've run," you shout as you turn, slinging on your backpack. A terrible cold grasps your shoulder, making you scream. Breaking free of the cold, you bolt up the stairs, leaping 3 steps at a time. There is a wheezing snarl not far behind you. You make it through the large iron doors. The doors is heavy and the hinge are tight. Nevertheless, you expect that if you hurl your weight against it, you can knock it shut, but this will take time and the demon is nearly upon you. Nope, just keep running, It's probably can pass straight through it, so just keep running. Damn it. You said there's no time for anything but running. Freedom. Comes a raspy shout followed by laughter. You turn on the speed for the next stairway and have nearly caught up to Reginald at the top when you feel a sudden overpowering chill. "Let me in," hisses a voice in your head. You resist it and it is like your soul is being ripped apart. Despite your pain, you keep following Reginald out of the secret door, out of the library and down several passageways. Rounding a corner, you're suddenly in a large room filled with the soft light of dozens of candles. In the middle are 3 of the evil priests holding hands and surrounding what appears to be a pile of corpses. The men are chanting in the infernal language. One of the corpses begins to twitch. Just to the side of the priest stands a massive orc. The orc fixates cold, dark eyes upon Reginald. Meanwhile, the corpse has been twitched and springs up to his feet with alarming speed. You think you recognize him as one of the priests you killed earlier. The undead creature levels its hungry gaze upon you. What do you do? You know what? Let's try charming the orc. You might be able to use the orc against it. The orc is not going to have a very high wisdom. Yeah, because trying to fight with your dagger against orc is not going to do well. And running, well, we already know running seems to be draining our health. So, go. You point to the orc and recite magical word, pausing now and then to blow kisses into the air. The orc, who's about to swing his mighty club at Reginald, instead turns his attention to you. You're not entirely sure, but you think you see soft glows of orc affection in those large, dark orbs. One of the priests throws a large candle at you and then begins reciting a spell. When the poorly aimed and weakly thrown candle misses you, the orc slams the priest in the face with his club, smashing it like a melon. Yes, yes, you shout to the orc, kill them all. The undead corpse springs at you, but the orc grabs it by the leg in mid-air and crashes it to the floor. The orc and the zombie then grapple each other, crawling, biting and strangling. Reginald has since gathered his wits and slain another of the priests with his sword. The two of you have fought upon the remaining priests the old medieval way, cutting and stabbing with blades. Soon the poor fool is nothing more than a bloody mess on the floor. You look over and see the orc has dismembered the now motionless undead priest, but in the process, however, has been grievously wounded. Its neck's been ripped open and purplish blood is pumping out. It looks at you pleadingly before collapsing. As you and Reginald catch your breath, from somewhere in the castle echoes the distant raspy crackle of the dark spirit with hellish eyes. A chill goes up your spine. You do not want to tangle with that thing again. You suspect neither your spells nor blades can harm it. Perhaps it would be wise to run from this cursed place. On the other hand, maybe you could afford to take a few seconds to search the bodies of your recently fallen enemies, but there is still the matter of the merchant's daughter. Nope, let's go after the girl. Save the damsel. Come, we must find her, you say. The two of you are debating where exactly you should go to accomplish this. There is a blood-curdling scream not far off. Before you can react, you see Sabia, her eyes bloodshot, run into the candlelight. Gods be praised, you exclaim. Gods, we must flee a monster. Okay. The three of you run. The ears. You complain as you run through the castle entrance chamber. You're referring to the goblin corpses from which you could harvest trophies. No number of rubbery ears are worth your soul, Reginald exclaims. Despite your present anxiety, this strikes you somewhat funny, and you plan to remind him of his words later, if you survive. For now, you do as your friend advises and keep running. The three of you retreat to the forest. You are all exhausted, and once safely away from that cursed ruins and reasonably certain no evil follows, you make camp. Because you're still in goblin country, you decide against a campfire. Instead, you just have to make do with sleeping roll in your backpack. It's a rather cold night, and you notice Sibia carries nothing but the ripped up clothing on her back. What do you do? Offer the blanket, share the blanket, or shrug and go to sleep? Ooh. Now, I'm not going to shrug and go to sleep. That one's out the question. But we could offer it, where in that case we'll probably take health damage. But then if I offer to share, she might take that the wrong way. Or she might take it the right way. You know what? Screw it. Let's see if we can romance her. Let's offer to share. Oh. You cad, I'm tempted to give you a moral point for your bold choice, but unfortunately this scene does not play out that way. You invite to share your blanket with you. She cocks her head, gives you a surprised look and politely declines. Reginald offers his own blanket. She smiles and takes the blanket, damn it, and goes off to find a tree to curl up around. It would have been warmer still with me, you think to yourself. Alas, not everyone can be as practical as you are. Since Reginald is cold anyway, he decides to take the first watch. You're awoken well before dawn and you load in your blanket as you sit up to keep an eye out for danger. As you settle into your watch, your eyes wander to the sleeping merchant's daughter. A silver of moonlight is escaped through the branches above and illuminates her delicate nose. You decide that it's a pretty little nose. You feel a pang of guilt. The young maiden has lost her father. You think she is not simply some young woman you met at an inn that you might like to try to charm. You were never that good at charming anyway. That was always Reginald's talent. He always told you that it was because you think too much and can never allow your natural charm to shine through. You turn your attention away from the sleeping girl and into the dark gloom of the forest. It's obvious that you need something to occupy your thoughts in order to stay awake. Whoops, never mind. You wait until Reginald begins snoring before you pull your spellbook out of your backpack. Reginald hates it when you study magic while you're supposed to be keeping watch, but you need something to distract you from the cold. With flint and tinder, you light a single candle to read by. The arcane text that you have read 1,000 times over, but differently each pass through, provides a sort of familiar comfort. A comfort you're grateful for in this dark forest. Soon you're lost in study. After some time, you can never keep track of time. When immersed in magical love, you exclaim, "Yes! Danger!" Reginald rolls over, his eyes slit. He's only half awake. I understand it. Invisibility. I could turn invisible at least. This spell has eluded me for so long. At least I think I understand. You say as you point down at the arcane symbol in your book. Go to sleep, Reginald slurs, and then his head falls back to the ground. This is goblin country and I'm on watch. I dare not sleep, you say, but Reginald doesn't hear you. He's snoring again. It turns out you're not so vigilant after all. At some point you gaze at the candle flame. You fall asleep. Great. Awakened, someone's near, Reginald whispers as he shakes you. You sit up groggily. It's still dark. At first all you hear is an owl hooting. Then sure enough, voices trickle in through the trees. Not goblins, the human voices, you think. They approach upon the trail. Sibby says, huddling in a blanket. To the trail then, but keep quiet. And no lantern, you whisper. We must go slow. Moonlight will have to be enough. Why? Why not stay still and let them pass? Because we're adventurers, you whisper fiercely as you gather your backpack. Refusing to be left by yourself, Sibia follows you as you creep up the edge of the trail. Thank the gods she is not sniffling or otherwise making a racket. You've just taken up your position in the brush when you see the first of a column of priests of Nerul visible in the light of their torches. Several of them are speaking casually, loudly even, as though they and not the goblins own this part of the woods. As they pass by, you see in the middle of a column a large stretcher made of thick wooden branches and a rough spun fabric. It's carried by 8 priests. Upon the stretcher is a pure white horse whose legs are bound with rope. Not a horse, but a unicorn. You've not seen one before, but the long, softly glowing horn is a dead giveaway. Several meters behind the main party are a tall man and woman. The man holds a lantern. In this lantern light, you can clearly make out the woman's features. You know the young woman, or to be precise, you know of her. She's the beautiful Lady Engrain, daughter of Lord Engrain. Her father holds a keep and estate some distance from town, and her family comes to Ring City for annual tournaments. More than once you've gazed wistfully at her from the cheap seats far in the corner of the jousting area. Needless to say, it's a bit disappointing to see that she appears to be a Neurolian priestess. And the man with her, you wonder? After a moment you recognise him as her father, Lord Engrain. To think a man of such illustrious line would get mixed up with this evil lot. Anyway, back to Lady Engrain. Her jet black hair is pulled back to reveal a mostly shaped long neck. Her flawless skin glows in the lantern night. The golden and holy symbol of Naru hanging over her bosom constricts nicely with her large brown eyes. We cannot go back there, not yet, Lord Engross says. Why would we ever go back? That ruin offers no decent bath, Lady Engross replies. There is some unfinished business, however it can wait, Lord Engross says as he absently pats the pocket of his immense fur-lined overcoat. The old one will move on from Castle Inverness to seek the living. Let us hope he does not exact revenge upon us. After the column has passed out their shot, Reginald sighs, a unicorn, was it not? Where did they find such a creature? I wager they do not plan to simply feed her apples and comb her mane. Her? It's a lady unicorn, you ask. Oh, I did not look in that decisive region, Reginald blushes. Such craven and pathetic simpletons, Sibia sees as she glares after the column of priests disappearing around a bend. I propose we tie each of them down and cut off one finger at a time. We'll bind their wounds to ensure they will not lose too much blood and fall unconscious. I will then take their eyeballs and... Oh, I do not think that will be necessary, you interrupt. There are perhaps 24 of them. I do not think we'll have time for all that work. You and Reginald exclaim perplexed looks, and then Reginald whispers in your ear, young maidens love unicorns. Sibia regards the two of you with hard eyes. We should attack them now and make them pay for their transgressions. There are too many, Reginald protests, even with the elements of surprise. I thought you said you were adventurers. Adventurers are not idiots, Reginald replies, his pride clearly hurt. There are only 3 of us, and they are slowed by their burden. We could cut through the woods and get ahead of them. We should ambush them as they come by. Or we could follow them from a distance, learn more about our quarry, perhaps strike at a more opportune time. And perhaps they will notice us following them, or perhaps they are journeying to some vile fortification that we cannot hope to storm. I say we ambush them now while they're in the open. Oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? You know what? Screw it. Ambush them. Oops. Oh well. We have surprise on our side, and they're about as vulnerable now as can hope. Perhaps if we strike their line where the unicorn is being carried, we can cut the creature loose before they know what's happening, you say. A bold plan. You best be swift with your blade, keen to free the unicorn before they slay us with their death magic. The 3 of you run to the forest, a good distance from the trail, and make haste, trying to pass by the priest, travelling parallel to them. This is all the more difficult since you have to leap over fallen logs and batter your way through brush while the priests have a nice dirt path to walk on. By the time you take up your strategic position in the forest, you are breathing hard. The plan is for you to attack first with a large gout of flame. Reginald will then leap out with his sword and cover you as you cut the unicorn free. Sibia will remain hidden up in a tree to be your eyes from above. Soon you hear voices, and then the priests are passing by. You did not quite appreciate how many of them there are the first time. As the bound unicorn draws near, you feel a hard lump in your stomach. There are now priests walking along the side of the stretcher as though providing protection. Perhaps they heard you crashing through the forest as you work to get ahead of the column. It's this moment you've been waiting for. You're supposed to signal the attack by starting off with a blazing fire, but you do not move. Reginald looks at you and you shake your head. His eyes betray something disappointment. You burn with shame. I cannot. To attack would be suicide, you tell yourself. When the column passes, Sibia drops to the floor. You're a coward, she hisses at you. Being called a coward by a wayfish merchant would not be among your fondest memories. Okay. Why is our once demure, frightened merchant daughter suddenly wishing to play the role of bloodthirsty battle tactician, you wonder? Dear Sibian, we will mete out justice to these villains for the death of your father, among other countless evil deeds in due time. You were not trained in the art of war as Reginald and I are. Even if we set successful ambush, their numbers are simply too great for 2 men. There's 3 of us, Sibia says fiercely as she thrusts out her palm. A blade for me. Certainly adventurers have more weapons than they need. Reginald shrugs, unbuckles his dagger belt and hands it to her. Even if they scurry off to a fortification of some kind, we will take them. I have the trust of the captain of the guards of Ring City who will not suffer evil so close, says Reginald. The 3 of you set off after a priest while keeping a good distance away out of sight most of the time. Luckily their party is so noisy that tracking them is trivial. After half hour or so, your quarry leaves the trail and hikes over a field. You now have to follow a bit closer in order not to lose them. Soon they stop on a hill with a large slab of granite at the top. They set the unicorn down on the slab and surround it. You stop in the foliage of the tree line beside the field and watch. The sky is beginning to lighten with the coming sun. They begin chanting. The chant is in Infernal, but you can only make out a few words. They're chanting a prayer. You think something about forgiveness. I am no Nerian priest, but I do not think this bodes well for the unicorn, says Reginald. They mean to sacrifice him, Sibia says. The unicorn is a him, Ribia asks. Yes, I observed his when they carried him by our hiding spot. Irrelevant, you say in expression. One, our enemies stand in the open and on high ground. We cannot approach unnoticed. Allow me to lure them to you from the forest edge. I shall play the part of the frightened lost girl. They'll be overjoyed to recapture what they lost. You can then attack them from your hiding place. No, my lady, they may hurt you. I would disembowel them, she says, brandishing the dagger Reginald lent her. I understand your anger for what they did to your father, but do not die a fool. A fool am I? Sibia asks. Her face is such a visage of malice that you and Reginald both take a step back. Perhaps stealth would serve us better, you interject. I might turn invisible, creep into the mist, and cut the uniform free. My friend, surely your powers are best spent spewing forth gouts of deadly fire, not sneaking about like a rat. Fire and steel, simple and effective. What do you do? Got 7. No, we're going in. We're going to be the goddamn hero. We're going invisible. Quickly you cast your spell and creep up the hill. The evil priests are bunched together closely in a circle around the slab of granite. So you take care. It is critical that you do not touch anyone, because that would break your invisibility illusion. Your spellbook is very explicit about this point. Pass not even like a breeze, for even the wind is felt by man. Become nothing, and nothing will know you. You recall the spell instruction saying, one priest shifts to one side, and you have enough room to pass without so much as brushing their long sleeve. Although you have avoided touching anyone, you cannot help making some measure of noise with your footfalls. Fortunately, their chanting deafens them to your passage. Now that you have passed into their inner circle, you can make out the words in infernal language. We praise you, Ancient One. You are free. Servants, slaves to your will. We ask not for mercy, we ask only to serve. Over and over they repeat this. One of the hooded men looks familiar. Belfour, the farmer. He comes into Ring City to sell his apples every harvest. You know him because he always gets drunk and makes trouble. The guards have learned to keep an eye on him when he has coin in his pocket. You would never have imagined he was mixed up with dark powers. A few others look familiar too. Although you can't place them, they must be locals of Ring City. You are now near the unicorn, and you have your dagger out. You have a couple of options. You could simply cut the uniform free and start the fight, or you could try to scare the priest first. Screw it, let's scare them. Fair enough. You know that you will cast a more realistic illusion if you pick something you've seen before. What do you choose? Goblins, they're not going to be too scared of. We already know that. The girl from the ghost tower. Sorry, the ghost from the castle tower. Or the deep... No, they're trying to Oh, the thing is, do they want the demon? Oh. You know what? We're going to go with the girl. That's the only unknown. So, yeah, because they're not going to be frightened of the goblin. And is it the demon they're trying to summon? You just don't realise they've summoned it. Or they know they have. And no, because they know they've summoned it. They're just trying to... No, let's go with the girl. That little girl ghost was certainly frightening, and if these villains have spent any time in Castle Inverness, they will know her, you think. You remember her clearly enough to replicate her in an illusion and have the clever idea to make the little girl emerge from the unicorn. She has a menacing scowl on her face. There is a collective grasp from the priest and then shouting, "What? Why is she here?" You hear from one. "Back to your chamber, girl," shouts another. The congregation backs up a few seconds. Their apparent leader, Lord Engrain, chants a prayer in Infernal. "In the name of Nerul, I command you not to harm any of the living here. Go back to your father's tower and be silent." You cannot maintain your illusion for long. You have the girl swoop towards them with her mouth aghast as though to swallow them. The priest in her path shout and scream in terror as they duck down. Meanwhile, you slash the unicorn's bonds with your dagger. Now you are no longer constrained on the illusion. The girl vanishes just before reaching one of the cowering priests. Freeing a heavily tied down and struggling unicorn is not as easy as you would hope. Worse, you touch the unicorn with your hand and the blade in the process of cutting the bonds, and so you are unable to hold your invisibility illusion. Wizardry, you hear someone snarl. A dark hissing ray strikes you from the side. Cold spreads through you. Quickly, you slash the remaining bonds, holding down the unicorn. The creature looks at you and says, "Thank you, good sir." Now free, he leaps up. "You will pay for your inquisitors," he announces to the others. Oh, great. You nearly shout in surprise. You've never seen a horse talk. His horsey lips do not move about like humans. Rather, his mouth simply opens and the words spill out. One of the priests glares at you and begins chanting a spell. Fortunately, the unicorn gores him before he finishes. You feel a sharp pain in your shoulder. Just behind you is an Aurelian priest. His face contorts into a murderous sneer. He pulls his dagger back for another strike. The unicorn kicks his hind legs into your attacker's ribs, sending him through the air. Unicorns are rather useful, you think. Yes, they are. "Kill the beast," shouts Lord Engrain from amidst the other priests. Spells are cast and the air fills with hissing. Dark bolts of energy. You duck behind the stones as one sizzles above you. Peeking over the stone, you see several dark bolts strike the unicorn and it whinnies in pain. Most of the remaining priests are focused on the unicorn that they don't even notice Reginald joining the rear of the fray, swinging his sword with a grim smile on his face. Somehow they are oblivious to the butchery behind them. "In Nerum's name, die," Lady Engrain shouts as she summons a circle of fire between her raised palms. The unicorn raises his eyes wide. "No," you shout at Lady Engrain, as Lady Engrain sends forth a crackling ray into the side of the unicorn's head. The magnificent horse crashes to the ground. Behind someone shouts. Now the priests turn their attention to Reginald. He cannot stand against so many. You charge in, dagger in hand, shouting like a madman. With you striking from one side, Reginald on the other, the remaining of the priests scatter in a flurry of stabs. You cut down a final one before he reaches the woods. A shadow falls across your path and you whirl around. It's Sibia. Her ragged dress is blotched with blood and the dagger Reginald lent her drips with the gore of a fresh kill. She has a manic smile on her face. "Revenge! Revenge for my captivity," she exclaims. She then runs off, presumed to hunt down more fleeing priests. You are considering joining her when you see a glimpse of Lady Emerald's long, beautiful hair disappearing into the forest below. Whew! You rush into the woods to investigate. Sitting propped against a fallen log only a few meters away is Lord Engrain. His glassy, lifeless eyes stare down at his entrails spilling out upon his lap. There's a symbol drawn in blood on large stones nearby. Kneeling beside him is Lady Engrade. She's searching his pockets. Where is it? She shouts at her father and slaps his face. Where is it? Where is what? You ask her and take a step closer. She looks up at you with surprise and then smiles. Gods be praised, you saved me from my cursed father and his minions, she exclaims. Saved them from you? You're a priestess of death, are you not? You ask. You fantasize about approaching Lady Engrave more times than you can count, but you never expected your first words to be those. No, I was but a slave to my father, she says, her face contorted in rage. She then smiles down at the mangled corpse next to her. Now he's gone and I am free, but we must not dally here. Unrule, a monster from another world, stalks nearby. She points at one of the blood symbols scrawled on the nearby rock. The symbol's an inferno. You look back at Reginald chasing and hacking priests in the grassy fields beyond. Perhaps with the help of good people I may find again the light of this world. Lady Engrave exclaims, a hand out to you. Quickly, gather your friends and follow me. Okay, I can't charm her because I've got no... I could just kill her. I don't trust her at all. I'm sorry. I don't care how good looking you are. You killed that unicorn, so surrender. Okay. My lady, although your beauty makes my heart ache, I must demand your surrender. I'll take you to Ring City, where your innocence can be proven. You unsling your backpack to fetch your rope to bind her. Lady Emery's smile washes away. By Nelrill's hand, die. I knew it. Dark ray of hissing energy shoots from her fingers. You shield yourself with your backpack, but the ray penetrates through, striking your arm. You feel cold. You use dark magic on me. She is evil, you think. You throw your backpack aside and brush her with your dagger. Her long throat is an easy target for your blade, and you slash it open with one stroke. What a grisly and sad ending for the two of us, you think, looking down at Lady Engrade. Of course, there had never been two of you, but your dreams were really enough. Sighing, you wonder, had she been looking for something of her father's? What was it? Just then, Reginald runs up to you, breathing hard. The priests mean to regroup. I hear them calling for one another in the woods. We best move on. He looks down at Lady Engrade. Is that? Yes, it is she. We may need a drink tonight. You nod and then point to Sibia, who is now running around the grassy hill, crying and tripping as though in a panic. Reginald shakes his head. Only moments ago she was dashing about this field wielding that dagger of mine like a bloodthirsty assassin. Now who is she? Is this the way of women? You shrug and jog out into the grass. As you take Sibia by the wrist to try and calm her, Reginald announces that he will search just a few bodies before fleeing. No use in letting the vultures swallow our treasure, he says cheerfully. It is not safe to stay out in the open. We must not dally, you warn your friend. Ignoring Serbia's attempts to pull away from your grasp, just then the unicorn stands up, his legs shaking and his eyes bulging. You thought he was dead. No, not this time, the creature bellows. He pauses for a moment and then screams triumphantly, "This world is mine!" Oh, okay. Upon uttering this pronouncement, the unicorn gallops towards the granite slab and pronounces to bash its own head into it. You hear the horn snap with a crack. Blood spatters the white rocks and the creature batters its own skull over and over. Gods, why? No, Reginald stammers. Sibia commences screaming with renewed vigour. After a few seconds of self-mutilation, the unicorn, with its jagged stub of a horn, turns and charges down the hill towards you. All three of you shout as you run with abandon. When you reach the woods, you look back to see the unicorn thrashing on the grass, screeching in an unearthly tone. Evil magic. You stare in horror and realise that this magic is beyond your understanding. Motion for the others to follow you. You say, "We have pressed good fortune long enough. Let us return to the city and the company of good people." The three of you set off towards Ring City, your beloved home. You and Reginald are grateful to have some company for the lengthy walk. The two of you have long since exhausted your trove of stories and can nearly predict what each other will say. Sibia, on the other hand, is full of stories of faraway places, creatures and magic you've never heard of before. A merchant's daughter must really get around. As it turns out, Sibia's father has recently moved to Ring City and her brother Jordan tends to the candle shop there. Nevertheless, she bombards you with questions about the city. She seems to want to know everything from who's who in the noble families down to the local gossip. Time passes quickly. By nightfall, the tall gates of the city raise above you. The guards, typically suspicious lot, usher the three of you in without hesitation. They have known you and Reginald for years. Reginald was once even a member of the guard. Once inside, you immediately head to your loft. There you rest and apply healing ointments to your wounds. You hide the majority of your loot under your floorboards. By the following evening, you are refreshed and feel stronger and more powerful than ever. You toss a handful of gold coins into your money pouch and meet up with Sibia and Reginald at the Leering Virgin Inn for some much deserved celebrations. The three of you feast and drink and tell stories, exaggerated of course, to the inn regulars and otherwise thoroughly enjoy yourself. There is no justice, there is no law, there is only power. You quote from the first page of a book bound in human skin that you lifted from the sacrifice altar of Inverness Castle. Sounds just like what a zombie raising no good Gorgon arse would write, Reginald says with slurred speech. The three of you are alone at a table in the corner of the inn, as all the other patrons have grown bored of your boasting and tall tales and have gone to bed. You page through the book. Ha! What's this, you would say? This speaks of the Baroness Illinois lying with Sir Roger of Chesterford. Evil gossip, no more, Sibia says and then takes a swig of wine. Well, the account seems rather detailed. You read further and, oh, Guildmaster Franz Picos has been skimming gold from the mint, melting the gold coin down and recasting them with more copper. Aha! I thought the copper from the money change was light. Reginald begins rummaging in his pocket. What's that? A book of dirty secrets? Sibby asked, pointing at the book accusingly. I rather think it is. Why, this silly little book might be worth more than the rest of our loot put together, you say. And you think Lady Engrave might have been looking for that book, says Reginald. He casts his eye down to the table. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to bring her to mind. You put your hand up to reassure your friend. It is well that I learn to not judge a woman by her face, you say, doing your best to give a convincing shrug. I heard House Engrave have fallen on hard times. Desperation leads to an evil path, does it not? Reginald nods vigorously, sloshing her drink. His drink, sorry. The glassy-eyed expression on your friend's face is the last thing you see before you black out. When you regain wakefulness, you are standing over a bed shouting, "No, Reginald, you cannot die. Please," you are pushing down on Reginald's neck, attempting to stun the flow of blood. It's no use. He's deathly still on the blood-soaked ground and there's no pulse. Gods no, you shout and run out the room. You are now in what you recognise as a hallway of the Leering Virgin Inn. You shout for help and look back at him helplessly. From here you can see bloody fingers painted on the wall around Reginald. Runes in Infernal that appear to be some sort of spell used to harvest power from the soul. There are footsteps from behind, and you turn to see a city guard and an old man approaching. Seize that one, the old man croaks as he points at you. He is the murderer. To be continued. Okay, right. So that is the end. Here's the area of your recent adventures. Don't expect much accuracy. Medio Cutter did not sweep the details. And you can see more complex map of the Ring City and the surrounding area anytime by selecting maps. Okay. But first, let's have a look at our stats. How did we do in Chapter 1? Okay. Right. So 340 gold. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Loaded with coin, Slayer of Evil. Lovely. Absolutely brilliant. And I've got to say, apart from the amount of talking I've had to do to read, I've quite enjoyed it. It's different, it's enjoyable, and yeah, I've really enjoyed it. So I'll put a link into the description below so you can see how you do yourself. Make different choices, see how the story unfolds. Who knows? Maybe you'll win the heart of the merchant's daughter and go down a completely different path. That is up to yourself. As I say, it's not that expensive, and as far as I can see from the opening bit, it doesn't look like it's going to be too long of a game. So, yeah, make of that what you will. I hope you've enjoyed listening to me rattle on reading a story for the last hour and a bit. But in the meantime, I've been Sankey84. This has been Dungeons and Dragons, a Wizard's Choice Story. Thank you so much for joining me. Look after each other, and until next time, goodbye.